You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis for all things sport. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, head to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.
So, like I said, it's kind of been just one thing after another so far.
I'd say so.
But it's okay. I'm good now.
I'm glad you're here because I don't know if you pay any attention, but I might have a little bit to talk about tonight.
What? No.
I don't think much of it rides on WWE either.
but Hell in a Cell.
Oh God, it was so close to being good, and then they kind of murdered the entire show with the ending.
Oh no! Yeah, I heard it was. Some parts were really good. I heard
there were some good parts, and like I said, but the problem is at the end of it, they just went so.
That's the good noise, I think.
You fuckers! Why did you do this? It was like so predictable and yet just so bad. It's like everybody was like, God, this is probably what they'll do. And then it's like, but no, maybe they won't do it. Hopefully they won't fuck it up and do it. And then they did it.
Yeah.
Come on, you jagoffs.
Don't worry. Hey, NXT will save us, just like it's going to save the WWE 2K19 game.
That's why I hear.
Like, I heard Dakota Kai is DLC in that game.
I mean, that's cool. I had bought I bought a WWE game a few years ago, and it got old to me quick.
They're not good. They used to be pretty good. There's some still like back for the N64, and I think a couple for like the PlayStation 2.
Yeah. I used to rock one on N64.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean,
I've heard these 2K ones are very bad.
They always now the WWE as usual. They're masters of making it look like it'll be amazing and promising you all this shit, and they'll give you what they promise you. But then you get in there, it's like, oh, well, this shit that I really would have wanted, they don't do it. Damn it. And it's like, it just ends up being kind of ridiculous. So I don't really deal with the 2K games anymore. I'm always interested to see who's going to be on the cover, and the commercials were always really good for them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't want the game.
You know what's the most disappointing thing about 2K? Is that they probably made the best football game ever. And then EA bought the official license the next year for the NFL. And they could never make a game. I don't remember if you remember, it was NFL 2K5. And it was amazing. It was the best football game I ever played. And still to this day is the best football game I ever played. It was great, and it was only $20, and it was.
That's something.
And then EA, who makes Madden, was like, "Yeah, you guys make a much better game than us for much cheaper than we do, so we're just gonna buy exclusive rights to the NFL license, so you guys can't make another game."
Isn't that kind of how EA does everything?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
I mean, NFL, FIFA.
Yeah. Thankfully, that at least there's a different. I've never gotten to play it, but I've heard it's really good. Pro Evolution Soccer. They actually have a deal with Liverpool and a couple other clubs. I think Barcelona's another one of them.
Yeah.
Where they have a bunch of. Didn't Liverpool reveal their third kits through PES this year?
I believe so.
That's right. So.
Well, apparently fuck Madden. I don't give a shit about Madden.
Nobody does. Yep.
Apparently, FIFA, EA bought the rights to the actual Champions League now.
Yeah, that is they have the
that's kind of my reason. That's one of the biggest reasons I'll buy EA or I'll buy FIFA this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have the full presentation and graphics and everything for the Champions League this year, as well as actually being able to call it the Champions League.
Yes, it will no longer just be the Champions Cup.
Yeah. What could that be?
Which I just win over and over.
Because you're so good. And we'll talk about the Champions Cup, as it would be known if we were playing FIFA 2018 and before. But no, now that we're in 2018-19, we can finally call it the Champions League. And hey, that'll be the only Champions League I'll be able to watch this year. So awesome. Can't wait for FIFA 19. Hi everybody.
Gotta get you to the pub, lad.
Yeah, apparently. It's weekdays. Welcome to the Foreign Affair Podcast, episode 228. I am Edward Green, joined as always by McCullen Crime, Wes Bradshaw. We survived the hurricane. We're all good here in our respective regions, and things are looking okay for us after last week's much abbreviated podcast. So we are going to be bringing you our full thoughts this week. Thankfully, nothing happened last week, so that was great.
Yeah, thankfully it was a suck week.
Best time ever to have a hurricane. So we're going to be bringing you all the news from the Premier League in the past weekend's worth of matches, as well as the Champions League, which Wes will definitely be talking more about, because as I just alluded to, I didn't get to watch any of them because I didn't feel like spending $3 per game to watch. So
well, that's said. At the end of the day, you probably didn't want to see yours anyway. So.
That's true, but I would have liked to have seen some of them. I would have liked to have seen Manchester City lose to Lyon. Spoilers. Spoilers.
See, we left Nabil Fekir as a sleeper agent.
Apparently.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Europe.
So yeah, we'll talk about that. And as I said, you will kind of carry that conversation, because I only got to see Ronaldo cry, which is fine. That's worth it for me, but I didn't get to actually see much else. So we'll be talking about that. We have a little bit of news and notes, and then watch 4, and then a sort of so-ra coming up later on in the program. As always, we're presented by NGSC Sports, NGSCSports.com. We never stop. So let's get this train rolling here as we hit the Premier League action from this past weekend, back from international break. And first, we're going to go through some matches that we're not really going to talk about. Huddersfield.
And real quick, just the final indictment of all international breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this international break created a natural disaster in North and South Carolina.
Mother Nature actively abhors international breaks.
I mean, Mother Nature said, all right, fine, no Premier League. I'm going to destroy Wilmington. Guys, come on.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Just never again. Never again.
Just don't do that again.
No.
So, no more international break.
That's all we ask. It's really not a big thing to ask, I think.
Unless it works in our schedule.
True. Unless you start playing in Charlotte. Back to the Premier League. Huddersfield took a 1-0 loss to Crystal Palace, thanks to a goal in the 38th minute from Wilfried Zaha, as Palace get back to winning ways there. After the international break, Bournemouth with a big win over Leicester City. Big up the Cherries. Ryan Fraser with a brace, Josh King with a penalty, and that was just in the first half as Bournemouth got staked out to a 3-0 lead. They added a fourth one in the 81st minute before James Maddison put a penalty in for Leicester in the 88th, and then Mark Albrighton just 1 minute later got them their second, but it wasn't enough for good old Leicester. So we're going to move on from there. Wolves really starting to hit their stride in their Premier League now, and they beat poor Burnley in the process. Raul Jimenez with a goal in the 61st minute to give Wolves their win and send Nick Petrovic into raptures. And our next match is one I'm sure Wes has absolutely no joy in, takes no pleasure from at all. Everton 1, West Ham 3. West Ham gets there it is. There's that laugh. West Ham gets their first win of the season, and it comes at the expense of the Toffees at Goodison Park. Andrei Yarmolenko, hey, he's a good player. He scored 2 goals in the first 31 minutes of the match to put West Ham out front. Gylfi Sigurdsson struck just before halftime, but Marko Arnautovic put the game away for good at the hour mark to give Manuel Pellegrini his club's first win of the season. Huge win for them to get back on the right track. And then, go ahead.
Of course, Yarmolenko, who has been connected with Everton for about 5 straight years now, so I'm sure they were excited to see him beat him.
Very, very, very. He's giddy like a schoolgirl. And then on Monday Night Football on NBC Sports, Southampton 2, Brighton and Hove 2, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg the goal in the 35th minute, and Danny Ings with a penalty in the 65th, put Southampton looking like they were in cruise control, but Shane Duffy got one back for Brighton in the 67th, just 2 minutes later, and then Glenn Murray had a penalty of his own in stoppage time near the end to get Brighton a point on the road. Big point for them on the road. So, Wes, I guess we can also just quickly go over some of these other ones, even though they involve the bigger clubs. Chelsea stays perfect after dropping an early goal to Cardiff at home in the 16th minute. Eden Hazard comes out with a hat trick to get Chelsea up 3-1, and then Willian, the Brazilian, adds one in the 83rd minute. And Wes, very quickly here, Chelsea still not the toughest of schedules so far, although that's gonna start getting ramped up just a little bit now that they got to take on West Ham coming up here. And then, of course, Liverpool twice next week. But looking good as they head into the meat of their schedule.
Yeah, we may have kind of underestimated a little bit what Sarri's men could do, and it's fair. Still don't think this team is built the way Sarri wants it to.
Mm-hmm.
But what Maurizio Sarri has is he has a guy who is at this moment playing out of his skin, is really at this moment one of the best players in the world, and that's Eden Hazard.
Mm-hmm.
And really what we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years is as Eden Hazard goes is how Chelsea goes.
Very much.
Think about it. Those title-winning seasons, he's in the conversation to be PFA Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the seasons where everything goes to shit, he's pretty much shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that really does bode well for Chelsea going forward, as he's having a cracker of a season thus far. He's been fantastic since drop, and there's some talk about it. There's a rumor out there that Hazard has already agreed terms with one of 3 big European clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Those clubs are believed to be the 2 Spanish giants, Madrid, Barcelona, and also Bayern Munich.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's kind of like an under the table agreement to sell Hazard at the end of this season. So you almost wonder, is he maybe putting himself kind of in that shop window
mm-hmm.
to maybe make that move to Madrid or Barca or something of the sort? Chelsea fans won't like that, but you know what? If you get a great season and then a huge fee for him, I guess things could turn out worse. If the guy don't want to be there, he don't want to be there.
It's a contract here.
Yeah, but he's Jeff Blauser. Except he actually has a really good track record. He's Jeff Blauser if he had like 2 MVP awards already. So.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that this is it's tough to like a guy like that. I think I know we just don't really like Chelsea just as fans, but I think it's tough outside of Chelsea to like a guy like Eden Hazard who only seems to turn it on when things are going well. And then when things aren't going so well, that's when he also takes it. Like, he's never able to elevate his game when things around him are going poorly. And I
wonder if it's does he want to elevate his game?
That's
poorly, or is it more attitude like fuck this shit?
And that's another point. Like, and either way, it's not good. So I think that's what makes it so hard to put Eden Hazard at the top level, because when he's playing like this, when he's playing like he did at the World Cup for Belgium, you said it. This is one of the best players in the world. The problem is we haven't seen it consistently yet. Like, he'll have a great season when Chelsea wins the title, and then, as you said, he'll have a bad season. Then a great season, and then a bad season. And now it looks like he's on pace for another great season. And, he's made comments before. I mean, obviously we've talked about it ad nauseum. The time when they were not in a good season and they were about to play PSG in the Champions League. And the day before he said, it'd be great to play at PSG one day. It's like, well, that's not what we want to hear, when you're about to play them, especially when you're at Chelsea. So that's what always stops me from really buying into Eden Hazard is this attitude. I think attitude issue that he does have. And again, when things are going great, it's fine. But as soon as things start to take a dip, I think he just mentally sort of checks out. And that to me keeps him from being one of the greatest.
And it's unfortunate because he definitely has that.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we see it on those off seasons when the guy's he's an absolute world-class match winner. But yeah, I mean, it almost seems like those tough seasons at Chelsea, he's just sleptwalked through them. He's been like a zombie. It's zombie Hazard.
Zombie.
Yeah, stop it. But we love you, Dolores. R.I.P. baby.
Yeah.
But if he's turning it on this season, Chelsea, with everyone else around him, Chelsea's they're playing well right now. They are, through this point, they are a credible threat. I think Watford had their great start. I don't think anyone considered Watford a credible threat. But right now, just with the start that they're getting off to and the fact they're taking maximum points and the way they're playing, you might almost start to slip Chelsea into that conversation with Liverpool and City at this point. And maybe make them title contenders. Now, once again, it's going to also come down to what they do when they play someone.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I really want to see what happens when they play Liverpool twice in 4 days.
Yeah, we're going to see something, obviously when they play Liverpool, when they play a City, when they play United or Tottenham, because I'm sorry, they got Arsenal at the most opportune time possible to get Arsenal. And they blew their doors off. So, we'll know more about Chelsea in about 2 weeks. We've talked about that. Well, after next week, we'll know a little more about them. I think after this week, a match we'll get to, I think we know a little bit about Spurs. It's not really what we wanted to know. I think we know a little bit about Liverpool, which is in a positive light. And it's because of those high profile, those big time matches where the intensity and the teams are evenly matched and someone has to go and win it. As compared to, Huddersfield and Newcastle, but give it up to Chelsea. I mean, they've taken maximum points. They've done everything they can. They sit atop the table on goal differential. They really could not have started their season any better.
Absolutely. And then real quick, we'll go through this one because I think we'll talk about City more once we hit the Champions League. 3-0 win over Fulham. Easy peasy. Leroy Sané, hey, I guess he's good again. He scored in the second minute of the match, followed by goals from David Silva and Raheem Sterling. So tiny 3-0 win at the Etihad for Man City. Arsenal gets a...
Well, real quick on that City. I watched the half of that match. And... City go down and score, and I was kind of like half paying attention at the moment. I was like, damn, they scored quick. And I saw with Sané, I was like, and of course, without a doubt, it's Sané.
It had to be.
It just had to be. So.
Script writers. Arsenal does get a big win on the road on the road against Newcastle at St. James Park. Xhaka and Ozil on the board, because of course. And then Newcastle pulls one back super, super late on by Ciaran Clark. But Arsenal do get a road win, so things are starting to sort of turn from them. Again, it's Newcastle, and Newcastle have not looked good this year at all.
And that is good for Arsenal. I mean, the race to 40, got to avoid relegation. So, good on Arsenal to go get a win early. Hey! Really nice of Mesut Ozil to decide. I play this week.
This week I play Bob Goblin.
Of course, once again, it helps when you're playing Newcastle.
Very true. Watford's perfect run of the season, start of their season, ends against Manchester United, who I think the international break could not have come at a better time for than them. Coming off the win against Burnley, they come back and get a 2-1 win at Vicarage Road to end Watford's perfect start. As I said, Lukaku and Chris Smalling on the board for United. Andre Gray with a goal in the 65th minute. So United gets their 3 points on the road. Second straight road win for them after an interesting start to the season. Interesting.
Yeah, you know, with United,
big indeed.
United actually went to Watford as dogs.
A little bit, yeah.
And I don't know about that. I mean, everyone knows United has a better team than Watford. Watford have had that really nice start to the season, the big win over Spurs, and I mean it looked good. But when you put the paper down, United should beat Watford 99 out of 100, as we well know. United just went out and took care of business. Some people are saying Mourinho was uttering that the rumors of my demise were greatly exaggerated type line. I know Watford had a really good start. I'm still not overly impressed by beating Watford, though.
Hey, well, as we'll talk about a little later, they had their way with some young boys today, so that's just never going to get old.
Yeah.
Never. Just like the young boys, they're never going to get old.
When you go and beat young boys, it's just...
They took great pleasure in beating young boys. I don't understand why Manchester United takes such great pleasure in beating young boys. I don't get it.
I mean, it's one of those catch-22s. It might be enjoyable in the moment, young boys, but in the long run, people are going to be like, "Man, you're beating young boys. What's that say about you?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't we so glad I know we lost, obviously, but isn't it so great we both avoided young boys just for this?
I'm glad that young boys did not come.
All right, let's talk about the Foreign Affair podcast Derby. Was this past weekend?
I thought we were talking Catholicism. My bad.
No, that's an even touchier subject right now.
That's our other podcast, This Week in the Confessional.
Emphasis on touching. Too soon? Never too soon. Tottenham versus Liverpool at Wembley. Liverpool get the 2-1 win. Gigi Wijnaldum with the headed goal in the 39th minute that just barely made it over the line thanks to goal line technology, but not you, VAR. They took the 1-0 halftime lead, and then Bobby Firmino added a second in the 54th. It looked all but over until Eric Lamela looked what basically was going to be a courtesy goal in the 93rd minute to give Tottenham just the faintest ray of hope. And then they almost maybe should have had a second on a maybe penalty call for Sadio Mane, pulling back on Heung-min Son as he went into the box. Didn't get called. That's all there is to it. So Liverpool do get a 2-1 win, avenging their 4-1 loss at Wembley last year.
They did. I'm going to start my analysis just touching on that last penalty.
Is that your analysis?
I'm done with the Catholic jokes, I promise, about the touching. Anyway, here was the thing. With the play itself should have been a penalty. That said, it was almost justified not being called a penalty, just due to the fact that Liverpool so dominated that match. It would have been a footballing travesty for that match to end in a draw. The way that Liverpool dominated it. I know I've said this before, but this is getting said by everyone. Liverpool should have had a 5 spot on the board. Michel Vorm. I heard Roger Bennett say it the best. He said, Michel Vorm, when he signed with Spurs, he came thinking, I'll play some cup matches and maybe a Premier League match here and there. I didn't come to play Liverpool and play in the Champions League.
You know, it's actually funny that you mentioned that, though. I believe it was 2 years ago when Liverpool played at Tottenham, and Vorm had to play.
Right.
And actually
he came off the bench, I believe.
Yeah, and actually had a very good match. I remember a couple times he had to get up real quick and clear his line. I believe the only goal he gave up in that match was a penalty.
I believe so.
So I know it's fun to meme on Michel Vorm, but he hasn't had a great couple games. But it's not that I think he's a bad keeper. So you know, that's just my piece.
No, but of course, if you're Spurs, you would much rather have the French.
Absolutely.
You go Lloris.
100%.
Even though Lloris has his errors in him, but in a big match like that, I mean, that's your captain. Mm-hmm. That's the guy that you want between the sticks.
Oh, absolutely.
Not Michel Vorm.
I would never argue that. Yeah.
I mean, trust me, I'd much rather have Alisson between the sticks against Tottenham than the artist formerly known as Simon Mignolet.
Yeah.
So, but that was big, you know. So on the way that game went, it kind of would have been disappointing for Spurs to get that penalty and get a draw. But that said, letter of the law, that was pretty much a penalty.
And, you know, John Moss would have called that because he called the penalty last year at Anfield. And, of course, he also gave Sadio Mane a red card when he kicked the kick. So, as we know, John Moss would have been just,
he's only allowed on the blue side of with being able to leave with his life.
Yeah.
On the day, though, really just looking at the match, Liverpool were rampant. Liverpool were dominant. That first 10 minutes, I mean, Liverpool had the ball in the back of the net 44 seconds in. If it hadn't been for Firmino being about half a step offside. And that just kind of spilled the way that the day went for Spurs. Pochettino has done so well with having – now, when we say Spurs have limited resources, we're comparing that to City.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, City and United and Chelsea, yeah, they have limited resources. Obviously, compared to everybody else outside the, you know, the big six, you know, they're loaded, they're rich, they're everything. Pochettino has done a great job with the resources he's had. This was one of the first times I really saw Pochettino get out-managed. I thought the way Spurs set up in that diamond, they basically ceded midfield to Liverpool. We didn't see the bite that Spurs have become known for. Now, of course, a big piece was the injury of Dele Alli, even more than Lloris. Was not having Ali, who is such a big contributor to that squad going forward. That hurt. But I thought tactically, Pochettino got it wrong. Eric Dyer's name is now describing his level of play. It's just Dyer. I mean, it's almost like Eric Dyer just doesn't know how to pass a football.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, got a ball. Oh, what I do? Just kick the shit out of it somewhere. I don't care where it goes. But, you know, he had his hands full all day, and he had mistakes in him. I think Pochettino brought in Harry Winks almost off the back of last season's performance, and that didn't work out for him. This Spurs team, to me right now, it's almost like when they went to Man United and beat United, it was like they gave everything they had. Because over the last, now 3 matches, I mean, they look spent. And when you break down Liverpool versus Tottenham in this match, you know, we talked about Tottenham not bringing in any new players. And, well, yes, you know, the squad is good. We know the squad is good. They have good players. But sometimes you just need that fresh blood in there. I think another thing with this past summer is the World Cup was so intense. And Spurs, of everyone in England, Spurs had 7 of their starters that played in this match. That doesn't include Lloris or Dele Alli. They had 7 starters in this match who played in the semifinals and the finals. Basically played in the last Final Four. And they look, Spurs look tired. And we're in September. You know who doesn't look tired? Oh God, I've forgotten your winger's name all of a sudden. The Brazilian.
Oh, Lucas Moura.
Lucas Moura.
Yeah.
Lucas Moura doesn't look tired. And of course, you know, didn't play in the World Cup. But you know, you look at the defense. The defense looks tired. Harry Kane. You know, it was Harry Kane has kind of covered it a little bit by the fact that he scored in August. Harry Kane looks about 60% of Harry Kane right now. Alderweireld, Vertonghen look gassed. Now, of course, Liverpool can do this to you. Liverpool are the type of team that can do it, but they look gassed against Watford. They look gassed against Inter. And this is just a Spurs team right now who's already the effects of a very long season. I mean, Harry Kane basically has not had an off season in 3 years. I mean, he just plays. He keeps playing. And that is a testament to how great of a player he is.
Yeah. What did he do last year?
Didn't they have something last summer? Or was he coming off an injury?
I think it was just coming off injury. I think it was because it was the year before was Euros, and then it was nothing, and then it was World Cup year. Yeah,
but you know, Kane just there was something that said how many matches he's played since the beginning of the season, and it's something like 70 or 80 matches. And now you go right into this season, and he looks a shell of what he should be. And it's just, you know, Spurs are a team that under Pochettino, they've been known for their fitness levels. They've been known as the team who will just outrun and out-hustle everyone. You know, they're the ones who they dive in for every ball. They kill themselves to play their game. And right now, it looks like it's taking a toll on them. Their injury situation doesn't help, but it just Spurs. I'm a little nervous for Spurs right now, just because, like I said, they look tired, and it is the middle of September.
Well,
and then go ahead.
I was just gonna say I do remember that. I don't remember where I read it, but I remember someone either writing or talking about the World Cup fatigue, and it was, and they basically said. You won't see it in August. Where you'll see it is about the middle of September going into October. And that's the part we're starting to see it. And hey, maybe we kind of saw that with City a little bit today. Because City is sort of in the same boat. So that is something that and that would explain why Spurs were able to have a 3-0 start to the season and beat Man United was because it hadn't kicked in yet. And now is when it's starting to kick in.
And, you know, when you look at it, the Spurs Liverpool, we just mentioned all those Spurs players. And then you look at Liverpool where the entire back four did not play in the World Cup. You know, well, Trent was there.
Yeah,
I take it back. Trent was there, but that said, Trent played 2 matches, I think. You know, Trent wasn't England's starting right back. You know, Joe Gomez missed it through injury. Virgil wasn't there. Robertson wasn't there. Fabinho wasn't there. Now, Fabinho obviously just finally made his Liverpool debut, but you keep going down. Naby Keita wasn't there. Milner wasn't there. Wijnaldum wasn't there. And then, you know, you look at that front line, and, you know, right now Liverpool are having kind of some front line issues where some guys are looking tired. And you could say with Salah, maybe, I'm hoping this is why, you know, maybe Salah's just tired from everything. But the fact is, the backbone of Liverpool that has been so strong for them, the defense in the midfield, most of those guys weren't at the World Cup. I mean, other than Jordan Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
So Liverpool looked so fresh going up against Spurs, and they dominated them in midfield, and they dominated them at the back, and I do think that's a big reason, and that's a big reason that Liverpool looks so good here early in the season, and are really off to their best start since the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a fresh Liverpool team. Klopp was able to get most of these guys in on a normal schedule and start building.
Mm-hmm.
Start building his foundation of fitness, things that Poch has been able to do in the past. I think, that's why international football soared,
mm-hmm.
because, it's great to have all these international players because they're elite. They're the top players. But in those summers where they play so many games, and not only that, but the intensity is so high in those games, suddenly they're coming back, and those guys, they haven't had a break.
Yeah.
Well, they got a couple of weeks after the World Cup, but they didn't get a break. They didn't get a proper off season. They didn't get the preseason that a lot of these guys got.
They didn't get an international break.
There you go. They didn't get an international break. Harry Kane was exhausted and got on I think they played their matches at home.
Yeah.
So they got on and I think that's paying dividends for Liverpool right now, is just that they happen to not have a lot of guys who ended up at the World Cup this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of the guys that they did have didn't go deep in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Henderson, you say Jordan Henderson did, but then with Jordan Henderson, with the depth of midfield that Liverpool have right now, they're able to take Jordan Henderson how they
mm-hmm.
want to. So they're keeping him fresh. Where Spurs, there's no one else that does what Harry Kane does.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one else, with the defense right now, they kind of have to play Alderweireld and Tonga.
Well, here's the thing about that. Even if, you take one of those guys, who you put in, you're putting in Davinson Sanchez, who also played in the World Cup for Colombia and who also had to play on international break.
Exactly.
So it's like, that's why it's such a weird thing. Like, it's not even, to me, it's starting to be not even like a depth issue. It's like I even look at the bench. Ben Davies played on international break. He didn't even play in the match, but he played for Wales on the international break and then had to go, and he actually played against Inter. Like, Wanyama played. Heung-min Son, who came on late, and as we mentioned with the penalty, had to come back from the Asian game tribunal that he had to play, so he could actually keep playing.
You want to talk about a high pressure situation?
God,
as Roger Bennett made the joke, there's Heung-min Son, which is Korean for draft dodger.
Yeah, so like that's the weird thing. It's like we can talk about Spurs needing to sign people, but then you actually look at their 18 even, and it's like who, and that's
it's a very good 18, but it's just I don't even know so much if it was the lack of signings. It was just that the 18 they have that are very good, nearly all of them are playing high-level international football and went deep in the tournament.
And that's kind of what I mean is like, so let's say you buy people. You're now buying people maybe, obviously they would, if they're good enough, then they're either in the 18 or they're challenging for even a starting spot. But if you're just buying depth, what are they doing? Are they playing on the under 23 side? Like what do they do with these people you're buying just to literally be bodies at this point? So that to me is like, I understand the argument, but at the same token, I look at like this entire 18 and it's like, they're all playing international football. They're all going out there. It's so that's when it's like, it's tough. It's tough to say because it's not just, because I think something we've said a lot in the past with Spurs is, well, who are they going to buy that's going to jump into the first 11? Yeah. And it's like, who's going to jump into the first 18? These are all good players.
It's not even so much that first 11. It's, it's bringing in somebody like a Lucas Moura, which, and then getting back to tactically things Potts did, in the Inter match, which we'll get to. I don't understand why, where's Lucas Moura in that match? and he's tailor made for that match. And no Lucas Mora. Potch is getting some grief because he's kind of been the Tinkerman this season. Has not fielded the same starting 11. I don't think he's fielded the same starting 11 yet. And that's something he's got some grief on. The fact that it almost looks like right now he can't decide, does he want to play a back three or a back four? I mean, these are questions which I'm not worried about Pochettino here because, I think sometimes experimentation, you've got to find what's best for you. Unfortunately for him, it's just, they've all come right here in a row now. And also the fact that it looks like you could have 2 to 3 teams who are separating themselves early. And then it almost turns into a, well, now what the hell are we playing for? I almost wonder if Spurs are almost in danger of becoming a little Arsenal-y, where it's like, okay, we're out, so we're not worrying about trying to win a title. Top four.
Yeah, here's the tough part. Like, I know we play. Why do we play? We play to win the game. We play to win the league. I get that.
I think he did a screen.
Yeah, no problem. Who reasonably expected Spurs to win the title this year?
Yeah.
Anybody?
That's the thing.
Like it was any reasonable person who would set all emotion aside and just looked rationally at everything.
Yeah.
You had basically 2 options. You pick City or you pick Liverpool. And that's it. Like, that's it. Like something bad would have had to have happened. There would have had to have been a Leicester season-esque collapse from both of them and maybe even Chelsea now for Tottenham to win the title this year. And that's not really supposed to be a knock against Tottenham. That's just supposed to be how good those other 2 teams are. And so that's why it's like, well, what do you play for? You play for top 4. Like, coming into this season, that unfortunately, I think, had to be the realistic goal. I think it did have to be top 4. I think it did have to be top 4 and winning a cup and trying to make a deep run to the Champions League. And that's where they have to do it. And obviously, this week took a bit of a hit. But at the same token, like, I think it's still all to play for in that group. Obviously, we'll get to that later. And that's what I think. Like, I don't think winning the league should have been a realistic goal this year. I know that's shitty to say, but I think it's also honest. Like, again, like, I think I don't think Tottenham could have just gone out, played great, and won the league. City and Liverpool would have also had to have fucked up for them to win the league. And that's, as of right now, through match week 5, it's not looking like it's going to happen. So that's just where I would stand on that. Like, I understand what you're saying. I think you make a good point, but I also think it's like, you're never going to win the title this year. So,
I mean, then it just comes down to what are your expectations, and I think there's definitely a group in the Spurs fan base who are, I think Spurs fans have bought into the project. But I think you're getting a group of them that are becoming restless and they want to see the project pay off.
Oh, trust me, I've been on Spurs Reddit. I know.
Yeah. And part of that, I mean, something I heard is somebody say, Liverpool or Spurs have been telling their fans they'll be for 4 years. Liverpool have kind of taken that step and built that team, and Tottenham have been saying Tottenham had basically been saying that they were going to be what Liverpool become. And for some reason for Tottenham, it just hasn't gotten to that point. And I think it just, no matter how good a manager is, and Pochettino has got to go down at this point as one of the best managers, I would say, in Spurs history. I mean, yes, he doesn't have the silverware to back it up, but once again, it is different time and place. And also, it's not like Spurs exactly have a bulging trophy case anyway. not take away from them, but it's not like they've got a bunch of past managers who've got European titles and league titles just scattered through the CV somewhere. Poch is definitely one of the best managers they've had, and 20 years by far he's the best manager they've had. When you've gone through the Harry Redknapp, the AVB, you've gone through that shit and you've seen them underachieve and spin big on shit and just bad things happen. Obviously, Pochettino was the breath of fresh air. He's the guy who brought hope. He has built a fantastic Spurs squad. Probably the best squad Spurs have had, and I can't really go all the way back into history of Spurs, but I certainly since I've been watching football, which has been around the 13, 14-year mark now, I mean, this is the best Spurs squad that I've seen.
I mean, it's probably the best since they were in early 80s, I think, when they were winning the European Cups. So
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, Poch has done magnificent, but at some point there's always a point of the fan base. And trust me, I can definitely tell you this as a Liverpool fan because these are the clop out people. But there is that group that's going to be vocal and say, yeah, you've done great in the project, but when are we going to see this project pay off? And I just think, now with 3 losses on the trot, finding themselves down in the Champions League group, a difficult group, as we're seeing at this point, seeing themselves now 6 off the pace in the league, I think there's a definite group of Spurs fans that are growing a little disenchanted, disenfranchised with football.
I will say I did enjoy this. I was on Spurs Reddit, and somebody went into this, created a post and was like, God, it's. I think this was today. He was like, I don't know. This. I think we just need to accept that this just isn't going to be our year. We're going to take our lumps this year, and we might be finishing 4th, 5th, 6th, and that's just what's going to happen. And then the first response was, get that reactionary knee-jerk shit out of here. That was for yesterday. Today's a new day. Fuck you. And I was like, oh, okay then. That's a good response from the fan base to that kind of post. So I do think, and God only knows, we'll get to the schedule in a second here for the upcoming week. Obviously, they have Brighton this week. Brighton already gave Manchester United all they can handle, so this is not an easy match. But
Brighton gave Liverpool a decent match. So.
Yeah. But Tottenham could also go into the Amex and win, and everything gets turned around, and this is all forgotten. I do think a point you made, with them all coming in a row, it looks a lot worse than if it had been every other game. I think there are areas of concern. I also think, and I love you, Arlo White. I love you so much. After the Manchester United match, I believe he tweeted out something like, this Spurs team looks together. They look cohesive. Manchester United's complaining about no signings, and this Tottenham team just blew them out of the water, and they had no signings. And then this, just after the Inter match, these they look gassed and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you can't have both. Like both can't be true in the span of 3 weeks. It's the answer is somewhere in the middle. It's not that not having signings was the right thing to do. It's not that not having signings was the wrong thing to do. It's just the situation we're in. I think that's one of the issues we see in football a lot because, we only play once a week, twice champions, a couple of weeks, is we tend to be very reactionary. We've been very reactionary on this podcast. Not just with Liverpool and Spurs. We've been very reactionary with Chelsea. We've been reactionary with Arsenal. We've been reactionary with United. God knows we've been reactionary with United. And we've been reactionary with, we've been reactionary with everybody. We do it too. But we also need to sometimes just step back and say, okay, just let's wait and see what happens. So that's all I want to say about that. And that's that. So go ahead.
I have one more thing to throw in there, and suddenly it is just Oh, this is just slipped my mind.
That's okay. Well, if you remember it while I'm going through the table, just let me know. The table now looks like this. Chelsea currently top the table with 15 points, level on points with Liverpool, but 1 goal better on goal differential. Man City 2 points back with 13. Watford is in 4th with 12. Bournemouth is in 5th with 10, up the cherries, and Tottenham are in 6th with 9 points. At the bottom of your heart, the relegation zone, Cardiff currently sitting just outside with 2 points. Huddersfield inside with 2 points, and Newcastle and Burnley are at the bottom with 1 point apiece. Newcastle and Burnley, oh boy. I keep...
It's crazy. It's crazy how shit West Ham were, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, one win. All it takes is that.
And it does, but man, I know I feel like I bring this up every week. I'm still just waiting for that Newcastle shoe to drop on Rafa Benitez, and I don't want it to. I really like him as a manager, but and I don't think it's his fault by any means. I'm not blaming him. I'm just, that's a rough.
I mean, you can't make you can't cook a filet mignon out of a leftover hamburger.
It's true. We tried it tonight. It doesn't work. So
real quick.
Sure.
That totally off subject, but since we're talking about meat really quick, have you noticed the new spokesperson for Arby's?
No, I haven't seen it. Who is it?
It is H. John Benjamin. Basically talking about roast beef and sandwiches. It's fantastic. They're like 2 or 3 Arby's commercials. I'm staring at one right now as I'm rewatching Liverpool PSG.
I will be looking this up on YouTube.
Yeah, just something to throw out there. Go ahead.
We love H. John Benjamin.
Oh, it's great. It just sounds like Archer talking about Arby's.
Perfect. That's what will get me back to Arby's. Not their horsey sauce. Saturday, the upcoming schedule. 7:30 a.m. Get started with Fulham versus Watford, as Watford looks to get back on the winning way. 10 a.m. you get your choice of Leicester versus Huddersfield, Liverpool versus Liverpool Light. Southampton. 10 a.m. you get Manchester.
It's our triple A team.
There you go.
Durham Bulls.
Manchester United versus Wolves. That's a big match for Wolves. Palace versus Newcastle, Burnley versus Bournemouth, and then Cardiff versus Manchester City. And then at 12:30, as mentioned earlier, it's Brighton and Hove versus Tottenham. On Sunday at 8:30, you get West Ham versus Chelsea. Can West Ham make it 2 in a row and end Chelsea's perfect start? And then at 11 a.m., Arsenal versus Everton. Yay! That's gonna be so much. Yay! Whatever.
So much self-flogging going on in that match.
All right, so now that we've already spent the first almost hour of this podcast talking about that, we're going to quickly go through some of the Champions League. We'll obviously stop for some of these. And again, I didn't get to watch it because I'm not paying $3 for every fucking match, you assholes. And I can't.
You can't just get like TNT or something.
I have TNT. I try. Wait, gotta make sure nobody from work is listening to this. I tried logging in at work. It didn't let me.
Ugh.
Yeah, Fox Sports lets me. NBC lets me. TNT did not let me.
Well, for me, I had to until I was able to get home and watch the Great TV app on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I still pay you assholes $180 a month.
Yeah, I mean that's why I have fortunately someone in my non-blood related family has a DirecTV login. And that's what I use for everything. I use TNT on my home here on Apple TV, and it works great. I use it to log in on NBC Sports and Fox Sports at work when I definitely don't watch soccer. But for some reason, TNT just didn't like it. And then I was like, all right, well, maybe let me log in on the Bleacher Report app so I can watch the TNT matches. And no. None for you, none for me. So,
well, may I start our Champions League coverage with commentary about the Turner, whatever.
Please, because I have no idea about it. Go ahead.
Oh my sweet God Almighty! Why can I not have Alexi back in my life?
That's not what I want to hear.
Their studio coverage is led by the ultra gorgeous and ultra talented Kate Abdo.
We like Kate Abdo. She's good.
I love Kate Abdo.
She was great in the World Cup.
Oh, she's magnificent. And she's very easy on the eyes as well. But she is magnificent. It all goes downhill from there.
I heard Steve Nash was on earlier.
Steve Nash is the best one that they have.
Wait, what?
Yes. That's the problem.
Oh, God.
Steve Nash is the best commentator they have. The guy was an NBA player. He's basically gotten this off the back of he played in the NBA, and this is TNT, who does nothing but NBA coverage.
Oh, no.
So they brought in Steve Nash, and he's known to be a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he was devastated yesterday.
I'm sure he was.
Stuart Holden, I'm just not a huge Stuart Holden fan in general. But, I mean, Stuart Holden's decent. I'll give him that at least. He's decent. Carlos Bocanegra and Oguchi Onyewu are unwatchable. It is so bad. I can't understand what TNT's doing. You're basically taking the top European competition and you're staffing people to talk about it who were former United States players. And I understand that, yes, Bocanegra, yes, all these guys, yeah, they play. But, I mean, they're not European-based guys. I mean, they had a little run over there. I want, when it comes especially to my European coverage, I want people who are European-based and know the European game. And as much as Alexi Lawless was a dickhead, Alexi Lawless knew what was going on. Warren Barton knew what was going on. Rob Stone's magnificent. We just know Rob Stone's magnificent. So no, Fox was not great by any means. But, oh, my God, this Bleacher Report / TNT studio show is borderline unwatchable. Oh, God. So, just know you did not miss anything with the halftime show and the post-game analysis. There's no real analysis. It's just, yeah, Liverpool outplayed PSG. Thank you. I know because I just watched the match for 90 minutes. I know that. Anything else you got? So, anyway, there's my little rant to start everything off. I am longing for the days of Lawless and Barton and Stoner.
That's
and their random female co-host. It's bad. It's bad. And then there was another thing I noticed was, because I watch. Well, here's the other thing: they only because they don't have it like on Fox Sports 2 or something.
Yeah, now
I don't understand. Of course, you had to get Friends in all day on TBS. How dare we, maybe use TBS or True TV, kind of like they do the NCAA tournament.
That's just what I was about to say. Yeah.
But so basically, they had Barcelona PSV and Liverpool and Liverpool PSG. I mean, you couldn't watch the Spurs match, couldn't watch the Napoli match. So I was displeased with that. And then, especially during the Barcelona PSV match, it seemed like they had the crowd noise piped up too loud, and it was hard to hear the announcers.
I will say one thing.
I don't think their production compared to NBC Sports is so bad.
I will say one thing I heard about that is that they are basically just bringing in the world feed. I guess I don't know if it's whatever feed they use natively in England. That's the entire thing they're bringing in. Like, it's not even, and I think Fox did that a little bit. And I know, like, that's what NBC will do on their games when they're not, like, it's not Arlo or somebody at.
Well, yeah, I mean, more the NBC Gold match.
Yes, those. But still, like, I don't remember that ever being a problem, though, either.
Well, I mean, it was just almost like whoever levels were just. And it was like that for both games. It's like you could, and trust me, I enjoy hearing the crowd, don't get me wrong. But it was almost like you could hear the crowd to the detriment of the announcer. And that was just getting old. It's like, wait, what the hell did he say? What did he say? What did he say? They got it better during the Liverpool match. But then, during the Liverpool match, the PSG crowd, which was fantastic, by the way, They almost drowned out the announcers a number of times.
Jesus.
So I'm hoping that's just okay. It's week one. It's not really week one because they've done, other matches, but hopefully they'll get this shit right because oh my God. And then, when we watch the Premier League, we're used to all these fantastic replays and just all the, the production quality that NBC does is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't even come close. So, on to the matches. So now let's talk about soccer, huh?
Oh, God. All right. Good news for you.
Now that we've used our television background.
Yeah. Good news for you. You're American soccer fans. One of your own scored. Christian Pulisic with the winner for Borussia Dortmund over Club Brugge as they get 3 points in Group A. As did Atletico Madrid, who get a comeback win over Monaco 2-1. Diego Costa with a tying goal in the 35th minute. And then a winner just before halftime from Jose Jimenez got Atletico all 3 points. So, again, this could be a pretty interesting group, Wes, with a lot of clubs we know. But so far, Atletico and Borussia Dortmund staking their claim to the top of the group.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we figured would happen. Great on Pulisic to get that goal. I believe it was his. Makes him, I believe, maybe the youngest player ever at Dortmund to make 100 appearances.
Wow. Okay, I believe that.
Definitely the youngest American 100.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that was kind of doughy. That was never really going to be in much doubt at that point. So, but really really nice, and then to go and score in the Champions League and to score a big goal in the Champions League. That's an awesome day for that young man and for the United States, I believe.
Absolutely. So big win for Dortmund there. As I flip back. Oh, no. Okay, there. Now we head to Group B. As we've talked a lot about Tottenham already. They went to the San Siro in Italy, where they took on Inter. Took a 1-0 lead through Christian Eriksen's deflected goal in the 53rd minute. They were pretty on cruise control for the next half hour, but then Inter scored 2 goals in the final 8 minutes of the match, one from Mauro Carde, and then the winner from Matias Valero to get the winner in the 92nd minute as Inter, just a big win for them. Two teams that were coming in hoping for a win, and Inter getting this big win at home. Also Barcelona cleaning up over PSV 4-0. Messi with a hat trick, current current leader for most goals scored in the Champions League so far, because Ronaldo didn't get any. Fuck you. So Barcelona obviously topping the group, but still with the second and third place matches all to play for, but Inter do strike first for second.
They do, and that was, we're not going to go in depth on Tottenham's issues again. I mean, I think we kind of covered those earlier, but I mean, it was kind of the same thing there. The difference here was they got the early lead, and it was almost like Tottenham were kind of like, okay, we're up 1-0, out, and late on they just they switched off a couple of times. That's all it was, and you're playing a team that's got really dangerous attacking players, which Inter does, even though Inter's been shit this year. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have not had a good start at all in Serie A. Tottenham just got caught a couple times switching off. Mm-hmm. And Icardi, that was a magnificent strike from Icardi.
Mm-hmm. A great player.
That was fantastic. Yeah.
Couple interesting stats. 4 of Tottenham's 6 conceded goals, the last 6 conceded goals, have come from set pieces. So that's weird. And just I don't want to call it, because I don't want to take anything away from it or try to downplay Tottenham more or their struggles more. That's kind of a fluky thing. Like it's kind of like BABIP in baseball. You expect that to come back down a little bit. Or at least you hope that trend doesn't continue.
Well, don't forget, you're talking to a Liverpool fan who just tormented by set pieces for the last half of a decade. So
Exactly.
really the last decade. And that's another thing we kind of talked about with Tottenham is, this is a team that's been built on that defensive stability. I mean, last few years we've touted them as having the best defense in the Premier League, and we're just seeing them switch off too much this year.
Well, and the other stat I was going to bring up, and this comes from a great article on The Athletic, which I just cannot recommend enough. Go get a subscription; it's fantastic.
Got my free subscription going.
Awesome, great Red Sox articles on there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I was just looking at this Tottenham article from Michael Cayley, talking about some of their struggles. Mentions in their 5 league matches this season, Spurs have allowed 73 shot attempts. That's the most they've allowed during a 5-match stretch in either of the last 2 league campaigns. The next most in a 5-game stretch was 61. So that's a big proponent of again why they're struggling. And if they can clamp down on that, I also think that they're going to start doing. But that is something that obviously being tired could be a symptom, or this could be a symptom of that tiredness.
I believe there was a stat from the Liverpool match where Liverpool had 10 shots on target, and it was the first time Spurs had given up 10 shots on target in a home match in something like 7 or 8 years. But like you said, that's a symptom of midfield not being able to control play, and up front not being able to really get anything going. So it does all kind of come round circle together. So
yeah, well, let's talk about that Liverpool match, because that's Group C. Red Star Belgrade, Napoli. They played a 0-0 draw. Trust us, it happened. I didn't even have to pay $2.99 to know that.
And as Forrest Gump would say, that's all I have to say about that.
The other match was much more exciting. Liverpool 3, PSG 2. Things looked good early for Liverpool as Daniel Sturridge and James Milner scored 6 minutes apart after the half-hour mark. That's looked like Liverpool were set on their way. But just 4 minutes later, Thomas Meunier pulled one back for PSG. And then Kylian Mbappe looked like he had secured PSG a point in the 83rd minute with a goal that sent that already raucous crowd, as you were talking about, into a frenzy. But Roberto Firmino came on as a substitute and pulled the goal back in the 92nd minute to give Liverpool all 3 points. And Wes, as big of a win as this is for Liverpool, I did notice a little bit of the talk was that, some of the Liverpool fans think that they didn't play that great, which would be interesting to hear. And B, I heard a lot of, and not that this would be an excuse necessarily, but PSG played a much more defensive game, especially early, a much more, I don't know if passive's the right word, but a more like, we're playing on the road, let's try to limit goals, and then as they fell behind 2-0, they had to kind of come out that a little bit. That's what I heard, because again, couldn't watch.
Didn't see shit. I'm actually rewatching it right now. We're in the 54th. Okay, just some quick notes, things to throw around this match. Thomas Tuchel, his last 2 trips to Anfield as a manager, lost 4-3 as the manager of Dortmund on a goal in the 90th +1. And then loses 3-2 as the manager of PSG on a goal in the 90th minute +1. So that's fun. In response to the passive early defensively for PSG, it's kind of because Liverpool did to them what they did to Spurs. They came out and got directly in their grill and just took the game to them for about the first 10, 15 minutes. And it took a while for PSG to get the ball and kind of try to settle themselves in. It had some of the hallmarks of the Spurs game, really. Liverpool dominated in midfield. I mean, just dominated them in midfield. Shut down that vaunted big three. It was big three versus big three. Liverpool's was put together for about £90 million. PSG's was put together for about 400 million pounds. And at the end of the day, we saw who won. A couple other notes: when Trent Alexander-Arnold went home last night, he reached into his pocket, he pulled out his car keys, he pulled out his wallet, and then he pulled out Neymar. It was a fun one. In response to Neymar's quip about a week and a half ago, saying he didn't think Liverpool would finish in the top 4 of the Premier League, does that mean PSG would finish 6th?
Sure.
So, yeah, I guess PSG's not getting the top 4 either. Then. Just so many little fun things from this. In response to the Liverpool didn't play well, a lot of that I think is more directed to the fact that Mo sucked. I mean, he sucked in this match. Salah basically handed them the equalizer with a horrendous pass in midfield. Just, here we are. We get the ball back. We do very good back. Salah's got the ball around the quarter of the way in his own half. And, if he just shoots a ball up to Firmino, we're kind of counterattacking. And instead he half rolls a ball behind Firmino that PSG pick up. Neymar does the only thing that he contributes to the whole match. Drops off one to Mbappe, and Mbappe scores the equalizer. As that happened, Klopp was turning around going Zerden, and quickly Salah came off. Salah could somewhat be in the same group with what's going on with Harry Kane right now.
Mm-hmm.
As in, I think from last season, he may just be exhausted. Once again, was in the World Cup. Now, of course, Salah had to come back from the injury that occurred in the World Cup in the Champions League final. But he scored a few goals this season and had a goal disallowed. Just watching right now again, the one where Sturridge made contact with Areola's unmentionable region. And Salah had put one in, that goal disallowed. But Mo just has not looked like Mo yet this year. And part of it is you almost wonder, trying to force things. Does he have that pressure, that man? I was a man last year. Everybody's saying it was a one season thing. I can't do it again. So it's like he's trying too hard to do it again. Mane's had his moments. Had one against Spurs where basically a 3-on-2 break that Liverpool should have easily put a goal in. He makes a wrong choice and passes to Keita instead of Salah. And that results in no goal. So Liverpool's front three, they have not been anywhere near what they were last season. And that's, I think, what's truly terrifying about Liverpool is, man, the front three hasn't been very good. And all they've done is win everything they've played and find a way to score goals. Firmino put one of those Mighty Duck deeks from the movie. He kind of put one of those on Juan. But not a totally spun around looking for the ball. It's like, oh, shit, wait, where's the damn ball? And Firmino pulls it out to his right foot, fires a beautiful goal in. Has maybe my favorite celebration ever, where he just covers up his right eye. I was sitting there like, oh, that's smart. He just doesn't want anyone to hit him in the eye. And then later look, I was like, oh, no, that was a planned celebration. What the fuck's he doing? So we're calling him One-Eyed Bobby at the moment. But, One-Eyed Bobby.
It's Talk Like a Pirate Day. So.
I'd like to hear the Brazilian.
That'd be really weird.
Yeah, there we go. Good job, Wes. Neymar and Mbappe, Neymar and Mbappe each had a 2. But for the most part, they were shut down. There was nothing being able to link them. Mbappe scored the goal. Mbappe had a really nice move earlier that made the highlight reel, where he got around Robertson and flipped in a cross that did no damage. other than that, man, Mbappe was not anything special on the day. Neymar, as I jokingly put on Facebook under a post, I'll give it to Neymar. He wasn't flying over the field mainly because James Milner wouldn't let him fall. So it's like, well, there's no need to fall down if don't have the ball to begin with. But Liverpool they did a magnificent job defensively. The Meunier goal came on a misplayed clearance from Robertson. And like we said, the second goal came on Mane on Mo Salah, giving a really, really. Other than that, Alisson was great. I thought Alisson was really good at getting the ball and getting it out quickly and putting it into dangerous positions. The way PSG played with their three at the back, Robertson and Trent had a ton of room to get down the side and do things. Robertson had the cross for the first goal. That came off the head of Sturridge. Trent had a beautiful cross that Sturridge should have finished in the second half. That he misjudged it. It went off his shoulder instead of his head. That should have made it 3-1 at that point. So, you give those young fullbacks. You got two young fullbacks who were facing Cavani, Neymar, and Mbappe. And they were spectacular. They're spectacular. Jordan Henderson was great in midfield. Whatever the hell Gini Wijnaldum, son of a bitch, he's actually turned into a really good football. And of course, Daniel Sturridge just does what he does. He just fucking scores goals and dances. And really, I mean, Sturridge could have legitimately had a hat trick in this. I mean, he was really good, and then Firmino came on and gave us that little bit of Brazilian magic. Since we don't have the little magician anymore, now Firmino, it's his job to break it down. So. Yeah, man. And to top it off, Fabinho made his debut. So, excellent night. I mean, excellent night for Liverpool. Could not have asked for a better start to the group. With the draw, PSG find themselves in an unfamiliar position of bottom of the group. Obviously, after one match, that'll around quickly, I believe. Yeah. But, I think for Liverpool being able to do this, I think it would be better for Liverpool to start this Champions League off with a big-time opponent. It was better for them to start with PSG than Belgrade, than Red Star, because they walked right out there. And I think Liverpool proved that, last season wasn't a fluke. Last year's Champions League run, it wasn't a fluke. We're here and we are a major player in this tournament. And if you don't take us seriously, we're going to blow you off. And I think Liverpool showed that, if things keep clicking, obviously I don't think they're going to win every match they play this year. But if things keep clicking, Liverpool are going to be there when you get to the. Obviously, regarding whatever the draw will be.
Sure.
Liverpool has showed they are a player to be reckoned with in Europe.
And for the big rematch will be November 28th, so that is when they will be made at the Parc des Princes to see how if PSG can get a little bit of revenge, or if Liverpool maybe by that point can just win the group. We'll see. Group D, the group nobody really cares about. Galatasaray got a 3-0 win over Lokomotiv, so good for them. And then Schalke and Porto got the big 1-1 draw in Germany. So Schalke, no fear, getting the point at home. Group E, also Ajax beat AEK Athens 3-0. Yes, I said it right. So they
how dare you?
I know, after all this time.
I was ready to correct you, Danny.
I know you were. And then Bayern Munich did what Bayern Munich does, and they went to Benfica and got a 2-0 win. Goals from Lewandowski and Renato Sanchez.
It's just too bad there's not a team from Glasgow in this tournament.
Yeah.
Then we'd see your true.
Celtic Tige. The Group F. Fuck. Lyon Oh, this is where everything gets fucked.
Yeah.
And I think really, I don't want to say this because I'm trying to downplay what happened to Tottenham. I think this is the story of the first week of the Champions League. And
I believe so.
Totally. Fuck you, Ronaldo. I don't think it's you either. Shakhtar and Hoffenheim, they drew 2-2. That was a pretty fun match with Shakhtar getting a late goal from Macon to get the 2-2 draw. But Lyon goes to Manchester and gets a 2-1 win. Wes, as you mentioned, Nabil Fekir with the 43rd minute goal that proved to be the winner. Bernardo Silva pulled one back for City in the 67th, but it wasn't enough. Wes, we looked at this group on draw day, and we're kind of like, well, City might just come through with this with 18 points. And they're starting off week 1 with 0 points. Especially to start at home, and with all respect to Lyon, like, City should win this match. If they want to be a team that's going to win the Champions League, which is at this point what they should be desiring. We talked about goals earlier. That should be a goal for City this year, is to win the Champions League.
You didn't bring in Guardiola to winning. You'd already won that with 2 other.
Precisely. So this is, and again, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to overreact and have bad knee-jerk reactions. But that's not the way you want to start your campaign, Wes.
It's not. And, you look at that Guardiola stands serving his match suspension from being thrown out of the last Liverpool City match from last season. Something to also throw in earlier, Gigi is serving a 3-match suspension for his red card against Real Madrid last year. So, of course, he didn't play against Liverpool.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Although I've been reading, there's a little bit of a controversy there over whether he'd even be playing, period.
At this point of his career, I'm a bigger fan of I think it was a little ridiculous for PSG to even bring him in, but whatever. We're not talking.
Anyway,
that's not for right now.
No.
Me, I did not see the City match today. I have not heard much of a match report. I just know apparently Fekir had a fantastic goal, so I will call him a Liverpool sleeper cell. And he did it fantastically. City should still be definitely favored to come out of this group. But what it does show is there's a chink in the armor somewhere for City. Defensively, I'm still not exactly sold on this team at the back.
Sure.
I mean, it's the same back that they had last year. And people were bitching that they weren't good enough. So what's really changed? I mean, they're a year older. And you figure Stones and Laporte, and, you figure it get better. And they've been fine this year, but there are chinks in the City armor. And Guardiola in the stands, it was Mikel Arteta was actually heading this match. I don't really know why they would underestimate Lyon. Just because, as you said, and it's been said, their focus this year is to win the Champions League.
Oh yeah.
Now, like we say, they've won the league with Pellegrini and Mancini. If we want to win the league, keep one of those guys. I mean, you bring in Pep Guardiola because, Abu Dhabi wants to put their stamp on the big time. They didn't do it to win the Premier League, and that was a starter goal, and they've done it now multiple times. So their one goal this season is to win the Champions League. And this isn't a killer to it by any means, because they can and probably most likely will still win this group. But, it does just kind of put that niggle back there going, God, what the hell's wrong? There's something wrong. So, we'll see. This could turn to galvanized City. So
sure. And next they have to go to Hoffenheim on October 2nd. So there's definitely a chance for a rebound. But To lose like that at home, I think is the most like if they had gone into France and lost to this Lyon club 2-1, you'd be like, okay, Lyon, crowd behind them, okay, maybe first match, put it all out there, great for them. To lose like this at home, it just feels a lot worse. And again, go ahead.
That said, I mean, it's the Etihad. It's not
Sure.
exactly like we're talking Anfield or
Sure.
Old Trafford or what the artist formerly known as White Hart Lane.
Yes.
It's not like we're talking one of those places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking city where they usually don't even sell these things out. So
that's true. That's totally fair point. Yeah, actually, let me look real quick because I want to see.
I almost would assume they did on this one, but after that,
let's see. UEFA Cup. They got their UEFA governed football capacity is 53,000. They had and again, this is announced attendance, so this is not even like who is actually there. Announced attendance was just a hair over 40,000. So they're about 80%, a little under 80% full.
Yeah,
and that's again announced.
Pathetic.
So
that's pathetic. So
yikes.
I mean, it's not like you're walking into, Anfield was a cauldron for PSG.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Etihad is just the Etihad. They call it the empty.
Let me just make sure before we speak too much. I just want to. Okay, yeah. Liverpool was 2,000 off their announced attendance or their capacity. So yeah, that's a lot different. I assumed it was true. I just wanted to make sure, just for fact check's sake.
Really, I almost wonder how some of these numbers, how they do them, because I mean, for Liverpool, after what they did last season, the way this season started, and just Liverpool in general, I mean, you would figure it would be an easy sellout.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess because it's a weekday, I guess there is a small contingent that may, because they started 3 hour time, so I guess that's 8 o'clock.
Yeah. I mean, it's 8 o'clock over there. It's
so
you would just. I don't know how those numbers come out sometimes. So announced attendance and paid attendance.
Well,
but anyway, that's the Etihad. The Etihad is not really much for City. It never has been. So it's almost really, you look at it. I mean, they've lost their last 2 Champions League matches at home.
Mm-hmm.
After you see what Liverpool did to them last year there. I mean, I think City will be fine, but it is just kind of a chink in the arm going forward.
Well, another club that was more than 10,000 off their capacity attendance was the defending title holders, Real Madrid. But they had an easy go of it in Group G against Roma. 3-0 was the victory there. Isco and Bale with goals there. In the other match in Group G, Victoria Pilsen drew with CSKA 2-2. Goals early on for Victoria from Michael Krimchik is how we're going to pronounce that. But then Moscow pulled a pair late, including a very late penalty from Nikola Vlasic to give Moscow a point on the road. And then we talked about this earlier, but Group H, Manchester United beat up on some young boys. Pogba just took advantage of being able to play against young boys with a brace.
Young boy.
30 goals in the 35th minute and a penalty in the 44th. Anthony Martial, hey, he still plays for United. He scored in the 66th. The bigger news of the group, obviously, Juventus does beat Valencia 2-0. A brace for Miralem Pjanic at the disco. A pair of penalties for him. Valencia actually missed a penalty late on. But the big news, of course, Wes, coming out from that match, in the most Cristiano Ronaldo thing ever, Ronaldo sees straight red for pulling on a man's hair. It would be no other way with him. No other way. Obviously very, very teary-eyed after he had to leave. And of course, the actual big news is he will, because of the multiple game suspension for a straight red, he will also miss Juventus' trip to Manchester United on October 23rd. But Wes, I mean, it's the most Ronaldo thing ever.
It was, and it's a little bizarre.
Yeah.
This is Ronaldo, who playing 10 years for Madrid, never got a red card in the championship. Ronaldo, I think, feels a lot of the pressure that's on him at the moment. I think he's just compensating too much. I'm not trying to say that.
Yeah, I know.
I really think he is. I think he's just, he's expected to be the reason that you're going to win the Champions League now. And, he's supposed to be the guy to get them there. Suddenly, it's not quite going to that plan. That said, luckily enough for Juventus, they've got plenty.
Yeah.
Anyone even without Ronaldo. So, even really for me, Ronaldo is going to be a much bigger player in the knockout stages of the Champions League, much more than he is now. So.
Well, and so again, big for Juventus to get a 2-0 win after going down 10 men. So poor start for Valencia. But that is the Champions League for now. Next matches, again, will be taking place on October 2nd and October 3rd. League Cup is this week. Yay. That'll be a thing. We'll be talking about next week. Hooray. Briefly, news and notes. Speaking of Juventus, they will be without the services of Douglas Costa for a couple weeks. He has been banned for 4 Serie A games for spitting at Sassuolo's Federico Di Francesco. This is coming out of the BBC. There was a very scrappy affair. A lot of as you like to say, Wes, it got a little bit chippy out there, and unfortunately for Costa, he did something that was very, very bad in spitting in someone's face. So he will be getting the 4-game ban for that. After the game, he did describe his reaction as ugly and did apologize, as people do now on Instagram. Juventus coach Massimiliano Allegri said the actions damaged and shocked the squad, and it was totally out of his character. So 4-match ban, Wes. But I mean, there's just no call for that. Like, no matter what, that's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't really expect you to add much to it, but
well, I mean, it's just there's some things that are just beyond disgusting. As listen to a lot of panelists talk about, I'd almost rather. It sounds bad. I can forgive you for punching a guy.
I understand that logic.
I can forgive Eric Cantona for karate kicking a supporter. You can almost forgive Suarez for biting someone. But damn it, spitting is just gross. It is what a 4-year-old would do to somebody.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. That said, I may have had a spitting incident playing football in high school. Mine was not so much a spit as it was a drop a loogie on a guy pile when he. But anyway, it was gross. It was gross, and it was highly immature of me. And if I had been caught doing it by multiple TV cameras, I probably would not have played again.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just nasty, dude. Yeah. I mean, you've got to be at a low depth to get to the point where you'll spit on somebody. The thing is, going into that, he had gotten away with 2 really hard fouls that probably could have seen red.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like Costa had it determined, fuck them. They're going to give me red on something. And he finally found the way to do it.
Well, I think we all remember. I say it like we all remember. Back, I believe it was 96 when Roberto Alomar spit in an umpire's face when he played for the Baltimore Orioles. So this is not unprecedented. However, it is still very, very rare.
Well, I mean, even in football, I mean, I believe it was Ruud Gullit and Rudy Voller.
Mm-hmm.
Holland, Germany, I believe that was the 86 World Cup, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That one happened. El Hadj Diouf, maybe the most hated Liverpool player by Liverpool fans of all time, he had a spitting incident. It's just there's no place for it. There's no place for it anywhere.
Not at all. So
just punch somebody.
There you go. Words to live by.
Just do what Ronnie did and just grab him by.
There you go. Our last little news and note, and we don't have to go too much into this because we have gone over this before. But again, I'm pimping them again. This comes from The Athletic. A great article from Kevin Williams about the La Liga match that will be played between Barcelona and Girona in the United States, and the actual issues that are plaguing it and could be a real problem. I like that he actually referenced a lot of stuff we talked about. Obviously, this man is a huge fan of the Foreign Affair podcast, talking about things like La Liga's invisibility in the United States as far as being on television and whatnot. So, Kevin Williams, I just want to let you know, since I'm sure you're listening to this pod, if you'd ever like to be on the Foreign Affair podcast, just let us know. And you have a standing invite, my dude. So there you go for that. But go check it out. Yeah, absolutely. We love The Athletic. As you know, I'm a subscriber, and Wes, I imagine after his free trial will become a subscriber.
Sure. Most likely. There's a very good chance. I've been very impressed with it.
It's really good. I actually got, and I don't know why we're going to talk about this, but we're going to. I actually really got into it for their college basketball coverage. That's actually what I got into it for, because one of my favorite writers who used to be at ESPN and is no longer there, two of them, I guess, Dana O'Neill is there, as well as Yamon Brennan, who just does amazing articles for them. And as well as, of course, Peter Gammons writes for their baseball sectionals, as well as does some Red Sox stuff. And Peter Gammons, obviously one of the best baseball writers to ever live. So that's really what brought me here. And then, of course, in the summer, they added soccer coverage, which is fantastic. So
I've been most impressed of everything with. They've had some very good stuff on college football.
I have not read any of the college football stuff, but I totally believe that. I 100% believe that. This just been very, very, very good. So again, we're gonna pimp this out super hard. Go to theathletic.com and start your free subscription today. Hey, athletic.com, if you want to give us some gift codes that we could give out to people who listen to the podcast, we'll shill. We will shill so hard.
Totally.
We have no.
We're begging to be shilled.
Absolutely. But that's going to do it for news and notes. So we're going to hit the watch for real quick. Wes, what are you watching the week that was or the week that will be?
Ed, I watched something. I watched a whole series.
Really? What was that?
I did. I watched Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan.
The Amazon production?
Yes, the Amazon production, which is kind of depending on what side of the political map you is being either praised or panned.
Really?
So, of course.
Yeah. I actually hadn't seen any reviews. I'm surprised it's like that, though.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been a big fan of Jack Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
The Hunt for Red October, which is the first time we ever.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a big fan. I like John Krasinski a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I like the version of Jack Ryan he portrays. Somebody had made the comment, he just doesn't seem very, like he would be that kind of guy. When you look at it, Jack Ryan was a doctor of economics and was a CIA analyst, who, found his way into the field, not by his own begging for it, but just under circumstances, and turned out to kind of be a badass. But the guy, he's a little more nerdy than anything, And I really like Krasinski. It's an 8-episode season 1. Season 2 is already in production. But he has a really nice evolution and arc from episode 1 to episode 8.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. Now, there were some plot holes that you could kind of pick at, about the use of terrorist cells and the terror network. Just some things you're like, well, do this will make sense, but obviously it came for storyline. I like Bang Bang. I like Shoot 'em Up. I like spy stuff. I like mystery stuff like that. Right up my alley, man. I thought it was really good. If you want to get offended by every time, a Muslim portrayed as a terrorist in a movie, then I guess it's not for you. Yeah, but I mean, if you just want a good show, I mean, it's right up there. It's in the vein of, your SEAL team, your NCIS a little bit, stuff like that, man. It's right there with it. It's a really solid show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already looking forward to season 2 myself.
I'm actually looking on the AV Club, which is where I like to do a lot of my my TV news and stuff. They actually gave it a B-.
Okay, I can understand. I can totally see that. I can totally understand.
And their headline: Jack Ryan, italicized, meaning the name of the show, nails the globe-trotting thrills but struggles with its leading man. So, I'm
to say, for some people, I think Krasinski might not have done it for him.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. I like John Krasinski. So, the thing for Krasinski, I think he's done a pretty darn good job of coming out of being typecast as Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Which in a TV series that was as popular as obviously The Office was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those TV series, it's kind of a catch-22 being the actor,
mm-hmm.
because you can get typecast as that character. And here was Jim, who's, laid back and funny and cracks jokes and, is really witty with his humor. And then, John Krasinski's done a pretty good job of, kind of distancing himself from that. Of course, his movie he did, what was it? The one that came out over the summer, that was kind of
A Quiet Place. The
Quiet Place. Got really good reviews for that.
Mm-hmm.
Got good reviews when he was in 13 Hours, the Benghazi movie,
mm-hmm.
which I thoroughly enjoyed. This is he's not Jim. Mm-hmm. In this show.
Well, let me just read you real quick. And this is just to give the work. This is from Dennis Chavez over at the AV Club. In that respect, Jack Ryan, the show is very much a reflection of Clancy's work, full of strong convictions but capable of great empathy. But Jack Ryan, the man, isn't nearly so fleshed out a character at this point. Krasinski certainly looks the part of a former Marine, having jacked up his lankier office physique for 13 Hours in 2016. The warm critical reception for A Quiet Place also proves Krasinski is more than just a Scranton-based wiseacre with potential. But he can't quite marry those two sides in his performance. Jack is kind of dour when he's in the field, and while he shows considerable more charm when he's pursuing Dr. Kathy Mueller, played by Abby Cornish, his grimness elsewhere makes these scenes feel incongruous. It doesn't help that Kathy is written in a similarly bifurcated manner, so that she's only ever reacting to Jack's wooing or telling her coworkers that she's too busy for romance. So it does look like there's they're definitely not hating on it. I feel like this is more of a good start, room to grow sort of review. So
and I'll take that review, and I can agree with it. I can see the scenes right now that they're talking about Grimace. And they were a little bit like, I wish he would do a little something different here.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that. I have no problem with that B- review. I'm more of a maybe B+ A-.
Sure.
But that too is because I'm a big fan of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan coming in of it already, and also I think the way I look at the world politically and culturally. I think I see it a little different than, especially, magazine writers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think in that sense, I probably enjoyed it more than a lot of critics will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. But
if you like that show, if you like kind of the action-based shows, obviously if you like the Jack Ryan movies, hey, man, check it out. I mean, shit, you already got Amazon Prime.
There you go.
It's 8 episodes, and it's fun. It's a fun show in the way that it had those endings where at the end of every shit, next one, go.
Well, and that's honestly what I'd say. I would always gauge with any sort of B- to B+ review. I would always say, if you're a genre fan, you'll like this.
Yeah, there you go. And I am a genre fan.
So There you go. I think that's perfectly acceptable then. For my watch for this week, what's going to be my watch for of the week? I tell you what, my watch for. Why is that all gone? Okay, there it is again. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I'm going to announce that starting next Thursday, it's back. I've been listening to their podcast over the entire summer. One named producer Jackie and I just rewatched the entire first 2 seasons on Netflix. We are ready for season 3 to start next week. That is The Good Place. It's back, mother forkers. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited. Kristen Bell, Ted Danson are back, and it's such a great show. I can't say enough, and I never want to say too much because I never want to actually spoil it. But it's just such a damn good show. Who knew the best comedy, possibly this decade, would be about moral philosophy? I never would have expected that. But again, and Michael Schur just does a great job. And of course, not really part of the watch for, but it's got to be on here somewhere. Oh, we don't have a date yet, but Brooklyn Nine-Nine, of course, will also be coming back to NBC. So very excited. It's that summer season is over. The September fall series are starting to begin again. So
real shows are here.
Yay!
Real TV's back.
Speaking of real TV, Wes,
Oh,
let's get so raw.
I'd rather say
as much as you want to. Do what you want.
Really, we're just with the sheer volume of information we've thrown out in this show. We're gonna keep it a little short.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine.
Because after what WWE, they don't deserve much more from.
That's fair. That's fair.
Hell in a Cell started off with
it's red.
The Randy Orton Jeff Hardy match that opened the show was just brutal, and it was Hell in a Cell perfection. I mean, the sight of Randy Orton pulling out Jeff Hardy's gauge in his ear and then putting a screwdriver in and twisting it.
Yikes.
Now, obviously, Jeff Hardy gave him permission to do this. There was no doubting that. So you've got to figure that he understood what pain level that would be. But man, it looks just terrible. It looks just, oh my God, how's this happening? And on that end, it was fantastic. That was a really good match. Ambrose and Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. Fantastic match, man. They tore it down. Becky Lynch for Charlotte, they tore it down. The mixed tag match, Miz and Maurice getting over on Daniel Bryan, Brie Bella, that was solid. Excuse me. Trying to think. The Ronda Rousey beating Alexa Bliss. Good match, man. And then we got to the main event. We got to Reigns, Strowman, and as we figured, Strowman just abused Roman Reigns. Let's put it this way: Braun Strowman will never get on the Supreme Court. I'm not even
what?
Going there. I'm not even going there.
Let's just keep going.
Yeah. He beat the shit out of Reigns. They beat the shit out of each other. And then we kind of got our schmaltzy part of it where McIntyre and Ziggler came down to try to help Strowman, which of course led to Ambrose and Rollins coming down. Rollins and Ziggler both came off the side of the cage and went through a table together, which was the huge bump of the match. And I mean, everything's kind of going, and you're thinking, man, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. This isn't bad. This isn't bad. And then all of a sudden, here comes Brock Lesnar. Well, and not even that. That's not even the issue yet. Lesnar comes, he kicks in the door of the cage. Okay.
Which was definitely locked.
Yeah, totally. And, Brock Lesnar just with one fell swoop kicks it in. Okay, I can live with that. Well, then Lesnar comes in and F5 both Strowman and Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of it. All of a sudden, after a minute or so of them being down, the match is being called because neither competitor can continue. So it's a draw. I mean, you know, the whole point of Hell in a Cell is you can overcome anything. You know, it was a big deal's been made over the last 2 weeks. It's the 20th anniversary of the infamous Mankind versus Undertaker Hell in a Cell, where Mick Foley literally almost died in the match and kept coming back to finish the match. I mean, the guy got thrown off the top of the cell through a table, and we thought he was dead for a while. Then he gets off the okay. So they take him on a stretcher. They're taking him out literally like they're about to catch. And Foley gets off of it. At this point he has a separated shoulder and a concussion. And he gets off and goes and climbs back up the cage. Yes, this is King of the Ring 98, which is seriously to this day one of the most. It's one of the greatest matches you'll ever see just because of what happened. He climbs to the top, and this was not supposed to happen. Choke slams him through the top of the cage, and he lands in the ring.
Oh, my God.
Which means he, like, triple concusses himself. And at that point, a tooth gets knocked out and goes through his nose.
Oh, my God.
Which leads to one of the iconic moments where it looks like he's smiling into the camera. Just goofy. Just straight up goofy. The guy has no idea where he is. And he's smiling into the camera and has his tooth in his nose. That match ends with Foley being chokeslammed on thumbtacks. Mick Foley I've never seen the punishment anyone took in a match that good and that big. And he finished the match. And here, okay, they beat the shit out of each other. And neither could continue. I mean, it was as damp squid a match ending as you will ever see.
Yeesh.
No one was happy with it. And it just left this bad taste in your mouth. Roll that over into Monday night, and now we find out back to Saudi Arabia in November or something. And now we're going to get a triple threat title match, Lesnar, Strowman, and Reigns. Excuse me. And it's just, there's no fire around it. I hope they killed off and wasted what they had in Braun Strowman. I really hope they haven't, man, because he was red hot. And they've decided to turn him into a heel just to fight Roman to try to get Reigns over more. I really hope that they don't kill Braun Strowman, man.
Yeah.
And by kill him, I mean like storyline.
Right.
Just kill him because his storyline is such shit and people are just finally like, fuck this, I don't care. So WWE, man, they were doing good on Sunday night and then they just dropped the damn ball. And I mean, I had no real desire to watch Raw because of it. Oh, and also Styles and Samoa Joe was fantastic.
Oh.
Sunday night. So, you know, it was a pay-per-view that could have gotten an A, but that end dropped it from a show to a C+ show. Just because of how bad that end was. So yeah, that's kind of my slow Raw for the week. I'm just left with like an
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for So Raw, and that'll do it for the Foreign Affair Podcast, episode 228. Ending, unfortunately, as limply as the latest WWE pay-per-view did. But don't worry, we'll be back next week to redeem ourselves and possibly the WWE even in the process with another episode. We'll have, of course, Premier League to talk about, as well as League Cup action to review. And maybe we'll even talk Europa League, because I forgot that's a thing tomorrow. That's a Yeah, exactly. But we'll be talking about plenty more soccer coming up here. Once again, we are presented by NGSC Sports and NGSCsports.com. We never stop. You can find them on Twitter. You can also find us on Twitter. Wes, you are?
I'm at Wes Bradshaw 21.
I'm at Edward Green. As a collective, we are at AFA Pod. Also, thanks to all our podcast providers, including Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, the TuneIn Radio app, Google Play Music, and the iTunes Music Store. So like I said, we'll be back next week. But before we head out tonight, Wes, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just off the back of our hurricane talk, we gave it to you a little earlier. Folks, if you feel compelled and want to give, check out the Red Cross, check out, different organizations that are collecting money to help with the victims of the hurricane. Ed and I, man, we were lucky.
Yes.
We were very lucky.
Sure.
This was a storm of the century that could have hit.
Mm-hmm. And
for people in towns like Wilmington, North Carolina, New Bern, North Carolina, Elizabethtown, Lumberton, Fayetteville, those places are they're annihilated, man.
Mm-hmm.
Havelock, Atlantic Beach, Morehead City, Emerald Isle, places like that, man. They got just crushed. And you've got people down there right now. We're an hour away from a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, while we're sitting here, never lost power, air conditioning, TV, everything. There's people an hour away from us right now who are finally getting some electricity back. There are a lot of people who don't have electricity and won't have it maybe for another few weeks. At South Lenore High School in Kinston, which I have family that lives in that area, they were fine. They didn't get the bad effect of it. But there's people down there, they set up a field hospital and distribution point at South Lenore High School because you couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Every access point to get out, to get into Kinston was shut down.
Jeez.
Because they were flooded, and it's bad, man. There's a lot of bad. Wilmington is going to take a while to rebuild to the New Bern. And those are cities that we know well.
Mm-hmm.
We know them very well. And so, if you feel compelled, if you can give something, $10, give it, because it'll go to help.
Sure.
It's a bad situation. And, we're not even mentioning some of the upstate, the coastal parts of South Carolina, just because they're not really covered so much here in North Carolina when we've got our own issues going on. But just a lot of people displaced, a lot of people who lost everything, and a lot of people who might not even have a home to go to.
Yeah.
So if you can, throw them a tenser, throw some support, do something. But it'd be greatly appreciated here in great state of North Carolina.
Absolutely. A lot of people could really use some stuff right now. I know we actually, for a lot of our hurricane prep, we had bought a lot of cans and bottles of water just in case, and we obviously didn't have to use them. Thankfully, we were very lucky in that. So we, instead of, at first we're like, well, we can just return it to the store, and then we're like, we could probably just give this away to charities, though. Yeah. So that's what we've ended up doing. And so if you guys were one of the lucky ones out there, like I know a lot of people in the Raleigh area and other places, if you were lucky and you did also stock up on stuff for hurricane prep, instead of returning it or even using it yourself, just donate it. Like we have tons of cans of soup and some others and bottles of water. We don't need it. We can always get more later. So,
I will throw my 2 cents in on that. I'm a big proponent of preparing for things, and it might not be a hurricane. It might be a snowstorm. It could be a freeze. It could be anything in North Carolina. So I would suggest, keep you a stock of something, but does everyone really need 10 cases of water sitting around the house right now?
No.
You know what? Hey, you could keep 4 of those for the next storm and then go buy you some more. And hey, if you got 6 cases of water, that could really go somewhere.
Absolutely. So go out and we talked about the good place earlier. This has been our podcast. Now go do something good. So For Wes Bradshaw, my call in crime, I'm Edward Green.
If you see Ed, hug a Spurs fan. They need it.
There you go. Everybody, please stay safe and enjoy the football.
Good night, Neymar. I hope you're sleeping tight, knowing that you couldn't finish in the top 4.
I don't think he cares. I just don't think
he cares about something. He'll cry.
Yeah, yes, he does. He does cry a lot. That is true.
You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on NGSCsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis for all things sport. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, head to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.